Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the show. We got a good one for you today. It was pretty spicy over the weekend, Joe. When the world delivers, we then have things to talk about. And boy, did the world deliver over the weekend. Now, let me be honest. I was expecting a bigger shoe to drop than what we saw, but that doesn't mean the shoe is not gonna drop. And God forbid it happens over Christmas or something like that. But we're coming into that kind of hot range. So no, I guess we don't have the the thumbnail for everybody to look at. So I don't know what it is for episode 459. We're talking about Auslander Raus and quote unquote, not my statement, and the Neo Monroe Doctrine. Basically, we're revisiting our importance in the Western Hemisphere, and all that entails. Man, these episode numbers just keep on chugging. 459. All right, Joe, how you doing today, brother?
I am doing well and good. I'm sporting one of the new shirts from Warrior Company Flannels. Um, they got
Nice.
good stuff. This was the Rhodesian brushstroke. I also, because I'm me, I also bought the U.S. Marine Corps 1942 green side
Oh, the
camo.
frog.
Yeah, the frog pattern.
Yeah, yeah.
All good stuff. All good
Pretty,
stuff.
pretty. I mean, all those kind of camos from World War II are a little, primitive based on what we know now. But there's some pretty, both on the good guy and the bad guy side, some pretty interesting camos came out of that, and that's definitely my favorite from the Allied side of the fence for sure.
And you know what's funny is Rick Wheeler just pointed it out in the chat. They do plaids based on the colorways of camouflage, but they have a
Oh yeah,
multi-cam plaid and all that stuff.
do they really?
Mm. And you talk about World War II history. Rhodesian brushstroke is a version of World War II British Denison camo. So
Well, speaking of World War II camo again, somebody recently, we saw that oak A pattern, that
yeah,
the German oak A pattern, but in the multicam like colorway. I thought that
I
looked
think they call
great.
it multi-cam oak now or something like that, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, was it? I can't remember who we saw that camo on, but it was yeah, that was a cool one. Oh, gentlemen, uh, Watcher, how you doing today?
I was doing a lot better until a few minutes ago. Geez, man. Video is now surfacing of the victim in
Oh
the
yeah,
New
yeah,
York City
yeah.
fire attack.
I saw it. It's really weird.
It's yeah,
It's horrible, but it's also weird. Just
yeah, yeah. Wow, something I didn't need to see. Great. But doing all right. We're approaching the season, and I'm doing even better. Look
look who
who's
has
here.
showed up.
Good
Merry
morning, guys.
Christmas,
How are you?
Dan.
Merry
Hey, how are
Christmas.
you, brother?
Yeah,
Merry Christmas.
How's it been treating you? The world that is.
I um, I am grateful beyond measure, but tired as a rented mule, and so I
Yeah.
got I got I got 2 weeks to sort of get my act back together and recharge for 2025. It's been a wonderful, busy, hectic, productive year, but the pace has been a stretch, I guess is the way to say it. So.
Yeah, yeah, no, I got you there. I mean, it's I get that 2 weeks too, right? Like I'm getting ready to fly back to the States to do Christmas with the family. It'll be the first Christmas in Louisville for since I don't know 5 years now. So it's first time since 2020 that my kids have been back to the States. So we're looking forward to that. But then, of course, after New Year's, my daughter, really kicks me in the pants again, and I have to take her to college and move her into her dorm. So that won't be any fun. But
That's a high class problem to have, though. I mean, that's not a bad thing at all. So.
First world problems, I know. Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
as a dad, that's tougher.
Yep.
But,
so we figured out.
So good morning. Good morning. First of all, good morning and Merry Christmas to everybody in the chat. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Nice to be here. So hope the season treats you well. So I posted. We had a little bit of a Christmas phenomenon, and thank you, Ron. Always can rely on Ron. Thank you, bud.
It always keeps you humble, doesn't it?
Yeah. I just got out of the shower, pal. So I'll fluff it for you later. So we have a road that goes up to our house, and about a mile and a half, and the trees are now festooned with Christmas ornaments, like little Christmas berries. It's tremendous, and there's a group of people that got together to do it, and it was really sort of cool. So,
I have to
all right, that's my
wisdom up that road.
Yeah, that's all the fuzziness you're going to get from me this morning. But onward and upward.
Well, before you popped in, I said that the world did a superlative job of giving us a lot of things to talk about over the weekend, and so so let's just jump right in, shall we?
Hold on, but we have to discuss the science we talked about in the back. The science is that every time I get a new Warrior Company flannel shirt and I wear it on the show, Stan comes on just to make fun of the shirt. So,
yeah, that's like bad Magnum you got going on there, and that's
so. This is Rhodesian breaststroke. So I want to wear them more often, just so you join us more often, because we like to see your smiling face.
It looks like they shrink the pattern so it doesn't look too much like actual camo pattern. Is that
yeah?
It looks like the shirt in Magnum that the black guy would have worn. I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but I can't even remember his name. Anyhow,
TC.
So TC, yeah,
TC,
that's right.
Yeah, that's right. I knew Rick and I knew Thomas, but I couldn't remember.
And he had that, and he had that MD 500 that was just painted like
with the rainbow.
God.
Whoa, wait, you went too far.
Yeah.
What was it? Black, orange, and yellow. I think it was. Anyway, it wasn't bad, but if you got your own helicopter, you do whatever the fuck you want with it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, first up, guys. I always love it when Martin Armstrong warns neocons scared to death of Trump. I thought this was really funny. And this story kind of jumps into like several kind of things. And his whole thing here is, so just in case, Martin Armstrong, he's a financial and geopolitical analyst, been around quite a while. I mean, I've heard about him back, I think in the 90s was the first time I heard of him.
All I'm going to say is the shirt and tie combination destroys his credibility. Just saying that right there.
The only way it could be worse is if he also had a ponytail.
We'd like to talk to you about aluminum siding. Yeah, thank you very much.
Exactly right. I'm a vacuum salesman.
We've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Exactly right. Well, so here's my thing, and Stan, you may know a little bit about this because I know financial analysts use computer models a lot and things like this. Mm-hmm. It says here, Armstrong says, our computer has been projecting that we're going into a depression in some areas and a recession in others. Depression is most likely in Europe and the recession in the U.S. until 2028. At my November conference, everybody was celebrating after Trump won. I stood up and told my clients, I'm sorry, Trump is not going to have a blissful administration. He's not going to prevent the economic decline. So I appreciate a naysayer, but at the same time, I feel like, we'll see.
Well, he has, I don't know this gentleman. I don't know much about him, but but it's, if you've listened to this show or you follow me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. I mean, we've talked about the debt issue. All you have to do is look at what the combined debt levels are of the G7 countries. And
Yeah.
it's not sustainable, and now they want to cut taxes and borrow more. So,
well, the irony is that despite all the potential.
By the way, Pinochet's helicopter tour has it exactly right in the chat. This is Peter Zahan's alter ego, man. That is on point.
Well, the fact that he hasn't mentioned the demographic collapse in China yet, makes me wonder about that one. But yes, the thing here, right?
Hold on.
What's up?
You missed it though. I'm just saying. It's funny to me that every time I hear somebody that's predicting financial collapse, they always turn out to be a gold bug. Weird.
Well, yeah.
I mean, people who see the world in a negative light tend to go to something like gold. It's not gonna.
There's a lot that this man, as I'm sitting here reading this, there's a lot that what he's saying makes perfect sense, but it's been obvious for a year. So,
in Homestead, there's a scene where the guy pops open a briefcase, and in it is a bunch of gold backs and silver coins. So,
yeah.
Well, the interesting thing here is that no matter how much Trump has kind of in his favor, you still have a $40 trillion debt that you have to deal with. And that is absolutely, it's going to, I mean, I think we got 100 days before it hits 40 trillion. And then it's another trillion every 100 days after that. I can't remember it's just absolutely, it's to that point where the snowball is getting so big going down the hill. I mean, you'd need to hit it with a Jewish space laser in order to get it to melt all away.
It's Mossad Monday. We're not supposed to talk about the Jewish space laser.
We don't have any topics for them, so I had to work them in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mess.
If I ran my bank account the way the federal government does, I would be in prison. So.
Wouldn't we all? All right, let me continue on here because this guy, like you said, Stan, this guy's on to some things here. The sovereign debt crisis is really going to start percolating in 2025. It's probably going to reach a major crisis by 2026 and 27. Why? They've dedicated all these banks and pension funds, 70% generally, must be invested in government bonds. They say it's safe, but it's the worst debt possible.
That's not correct, by the way. That statistic is not right. There is a big chunk, but it's not 70%.
Right. I wondered about the number of 70% because that assumes that like China and Europe and Japan are not going to buy any more of our debt, which they clearly will. I mean, because no matter how bad we are, we're still the safest house in a bad neighborhood.
Well, I don't know. You wait until you get to his other point down below in terms of delaying Trump taking office.
Oh yeah. So what you're talking about is
there's a non-zero probability of that too. I mean,
right.
What have we seen it now? We've seen it in Ukraine. We've seen it in Romania. We've seen it in Georgia. Playbook is being updated.
So they can't stop Trump from taking office, but they can delay him with martial law. This is exactly what we've been talking about for quite a while, Joe. The idea that something bad in the world happens so bad that it's like, oh, we're just going to have to push pause on the inauguration. We'll get to that later. We can't have a transition during this time. And, now that they've admitted that Biden is dead at the wheel, and that some kind of a weird cabal of former Obama staffers is essentially the collective president of the United States. Because a lot of
Scott.
Yeah, one at a time.
It's called the Politburo.
Yeah,
right. It's exactly right. Let's see. They can delay him with martial law. Martial law has been enacted 60 times in the United States, so it's not something that's never happened. So there's your non-zero chance of happening. The neocons are scared to death of Trump and really want to trap him before in a war before he takes office. that's the irony, right? It's like they want to push pause long enough to get the war going, and then once the war is going, the worst time actually for them to do transition, that's when they would do the transition. They're counting on an American defeat essentially to basically put them back into office, and that's what we saw with the ATACMs, the release of long-range weapons to be used against Russia. We've seen. I wondered there's with this FA-18 thing, there's so much kind of shady about that. I wonder if that was not supposed to be some sort of a Gulf of Tonkin kind of deal, because I really find it hard to believe that we accidentally shot our own FA-18 down. So many things would have to go wrong in that chain for that to happen.
Oh, yes.
You've been watching the Navy lately?
Oh my God. Well, I'm with you. These rusty ships, the Navy that we have, versus the Navy that we want. So anyway, what I liked about this is that this guy was basically from a different angle agreeing with a lot of things that we've kind of said that, well, we're not saying how they could happen. We're just saying that these things are likely to happen. So I just found that interesting and thought it would be a kind of a good way for us to kick off the day. Final comments on this guy's analysis, Joe?
No, because I don't really put much stock in it. So yeah, they're afraid. That was probably the least surprising prediction anyone could make, right?
Yeah.
Donald Trump's a bull in the neocon shop. It doesn't have any real effect. It's just a fact. So.
Yeah. Stan, you got any final thoughts on this guy before?
I think from everybody's pocketbook perspective, I think the thing you have to be thinking about is inflation is not gone. Okay. And how do you deal with extraordinary debt like this? You inflate your way out of it. And you're seeing that now. I mean, core inflation has been up the last 3 months. And so if you're thinking about how to allocate your asset portfolio, you need to be thinking that there's no way around the fact that I don't think that inflation is going to be here for a while. It may not be quite what it was, 18 months ago or a year ago, but it's going to be here. And you need to think about it accordingly. And so gold's not a bad place to be, and income producing real estate's not a bad place to be. I wouldn't be in the office market, but yeah. So just think about that. Because I don't see any appetite to do anything material. And even if there was, you're turning an oil tanker. So I don't see a whole lot of progress being made there.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our next one. The plucky Kenyans are at it again. Evidently, we got video of them here in a firefight near the airport there in Port-au-Prince. And God love them. They're not giving up, but at the same time, I don't know how effective they're being.
Looks like they got those new helmets from Brushbeater.store. So,
well, I'm afraid they may have gotten these helmets off of Temu. As so many do.
This is so perfect. I can't even believe it. I mean, this is karma. Just watching this, it's pretty amazing.
Well, I believe that I said when they first arrived that the way that the average Haitian is going to see Kenyan troops is just as another gang, right?
Yeah,
and that's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm just glad that we don't have U.S. Marines there, because there's nothing they're going to accomplish either. I mean, it's just.
Well, I will point out the last time the U.S. Marines took over Haiti, we did it with like 125 guys in about 4 hours.
Yeah, but it didn't change. It didn't change the arc of travel. That's the point. I mean,
nothing changes the arc there. So,
No, I
Um,
do kind of like Will Tanner's comment here, though. It's crazy thinking that Eric Prince could have probably hired a battalion of men in
well,
South Haiti in a
I don't
week.
want to put the cart before the horse. Let's real quick. I want to go through what's happening with these Kenyans here, and then we'll go to this Will Tanner point. Kenyan police left largely abandoned as they battle Haitian gangs. So basically, there's 400 Kenyans who showed up. There were supposed to be thousands of multinational troops, and now they're basically left high and dry. El Salvador is providing troops for medical evacs, basically to pull people out of the country as needed. There is there's a link to the full video. There's a longer version of this video. Watcher on the third response there.
Well, if Haiti had oil like Syria, we'd have troops there in a heartbeat.
I mean, let's be honest. That's been the problem with Haiti ever since it's the 1790s when this thing first blew up. It basically nobody wanted to deal with it because outside of some not even great sugarcane plantations, that's all that was there.
Bananas and pineapples.
Yeah. So the Haitians are chilling. Barbecue is killing old people because of a shaman or somebody like that said that the old people were putting curses on them. Evidently there is
a mix of uniforms here.
That and the interesting lack of sights on that M4
I was just going to
platform.
say there is literally not even a backup iron on that.
I know.
And that was it.
I thought maybe the backup iron was folded down, which actually would have been even more ironic that he's got the sights. He's just not even bothering. Yeah, that's aim fire.
Yeah. Well, it is the African way of war. Just shoot out the windows.
Ron said those helmets are abandoned by the Afghans. All right. Anyway, so I thought they would share us. We're kind of be talking about the Monroe Doctrine today, and Haiti is in the Western Hemisphere, and we have brought in Africans to fight in Haiti. So I don't know if that was a Biden initiative or if that was a UN initiative, but the poor Kenyans are now. Yeah, so he's got backup irons on that sucker.
Irons, he's just not using them.
They just fall down. That is a very African style of firing.
This is one more of those woke liberal ideas that comes from the UN. It was entirely a UN idea. The actual philosophy was, hey, it'd be great if the people we send to police them look like them. And I said that's not going to work in Haiti because of the mindset. It's going to end up as just being seen as another gang, and here they are. So it's pretty interesting, but I don't know what the real answer is. France probably has a bigger role to play here than us. So,
well, and this brings us back to Will Tanner's post, right? If the UN or the US or whoever organized this, instead of putting their troops out there like this to get shot at by a bunch of cannibals, what they could have done is just put some money together and hired Eric Prince to basically say, listen, here's $100 million to put a force on the ground to secure the airport and secure the area around the airport, make it happen. And he would have done it, and it would have been done months ago now. And how long have the Kenyans came in the summer, right? So they've been there almost 6 months now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been done and dusted by now if they had just contracted it out.
I don't know that that's actually the answer. That's been tried during the reconstruction effort in Haiti already, and it didn't go that well. So,
but ultimately, though, I think Stan, you're right on the money. There's no oil there. There's no real resources to speak of. There's just people who are trying to hurt each other. And
a blockade is a good way to handle this, and it'll sort of work itself out. So.
Well,
Well, they're, they're,
the only industry there that has any import to anybody is narcotics. So I mean, unless we want, well, and we've been in the narcotics business before through certain three-letter agencies. Afghanistan comes to mind,
yeah.
but I guess it's too close to home. Somebody might actually figure it out. But we're going to be looking for a new black ops person to fund stuff because the Syrian oil thing's going to go away here shortly. So
Oh
we'll
yeah,
see.
that's going away. But we've always got the reconstruction effort for Ukraine. So
Maybe.
right, maybe. All right. So moving on from incompetence of the Kenyans to the incompetence of the U.S. Navy. U.S. fighter jet shot down over Red Sea in disastrous friendly fire incident. So let me get this right, Joe. I know you've been kind of, I've seen several of your posts on this, at least in response to this. Basically, F-18 from carrier battle group in the area is flying over the Red Sea, and a U.S. destroyer decides for reasons to shoot it down.
Apparently, the sky was pretty cluttered that night. There was a little bit of fog of war going on, but I still cannot believe that we didn't have IFF on our cap aircraft that were up there. I can't believe that we would make this egregious of an error. An FA-18 looks nothing at all like a drone, and it looks nothing at all like a cruise missile. So, especially on radar, right? A different profile. It probably would have been making a little bit different of a flight pattern and probably would have been a lot higher. So, I don't know. I don't know how this could possibly have happened. I can't think of a logical explanation for it. I do know that the Brits, the French, and us were involved in a pretty heavy surface action against some shore-based elements at the time, but I don't know.
Well, if there is one, kind of silver lining on the cloud, is that both of the aviators did punch out successfully. One of them had some injuries, but they were both recovered and are alive. Let's see. The guided missile cruiser USS Gettysburg, which is part of Harry S. Truman's carrier strike group, mistakenly fired and hit the aircraft that was flying off of the air. So I mean, it even came from within. It wasn't like an independent U.S. Navy vessel, like these guys are in the Red Sea and the other one's maybe in the Gulf of Aden or something like that. No. This is part of the actual same carrier group. So. I saw some people posting over the weekend referring to DEI hires within the senior positions within the Navy. No idea if any of that has anything to do with anything, but ultimately, you can guarantee a lot of people are going to get fired over this.
Well, I'll be honest.
No.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's going to get.
E6,
yeah, okay.
Or a
so
captain,
a lot of chum's going to get thrown in the water, and that's an unfortunate thing. But nobody's get held accountable in this Defense Department at all.
Yeah, nobody at a senior level is, and who should be is the air defense boss.
The chief of naval operations should be shit.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that. But the thing is that most people who blame the DEI thing have never been on the ground during an actual fight. It does get confusing. The plot does get a little bit crazy, but we have some automated systems that should have prevented this, and we need to know why those were not working.
Yeah,
I'll give you an alternative scenario. What if fire control software was hacked?
That's entirely possible. There is a Chinese land base right in that immediate area that has a pretty significant ELINT capability.
Where would that be located there?
It would be right over by Djibouti.
That's right. That's exactly right.
We haven't had a good Djibouti sighting in a while.
It makes sense. Stan's come back for a visit, and we roll out the Djibouti jokes. So.
Djibouti is no joke, man.
I know.
Look at that Djibouti. Let's see. However, Central Command said that all the warships and aircraft earlier shot down multiple Houthi drones and an anti-ship cruise missile launched by the rebels. Incoming hostile fire from the Houthis has also given sailors just seconds to make decisions in the past. One of the interesting things that they've been doing, Joe, is they've been using the combat air patrols to shoot down some of these drones, and I wonder if there is something where maybe the F-18 was mixed in with some of these drones, and that is how the confusion. I'd be curious to know how many drones were inbound or up in the air.
Yeah, but I don't think, Scott, I don't think that we're using SM-2s on drones. I mean, that's what took this airplane out, if that's what happened. So they're 6 million, 3 million a pop. Old Hong Kong can tell you more accurately than I, but I don't think we're using SM-2s to take out drones. There's a whole range of things that they use for that, but not SM-2s. And so the question is, if we didn't shoot it down, what did the Houthis use to shoot it down?
Right. Well, right.
So it is more likely that FA-18 was not up there in a defensive role, but it was trying to strike something ground-based. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right. Another point of glory for the Navy.
And Saran asks how the pilots were able to punch out in time. That's because despite what the movies show you, missiles don't actually hit a plane. They get near the plane and then explode and send shrapnel into the plane. So they would be able to punch out.
And believe it or not, all of our fighter craft have pretty robust titanium bathtubs, essentially, that these pilots sit in. So they have armor around them. Moving on then.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Which one's that?
Goose had it coming.
Okay.
Nothing.
Pinochet. All right. Moving on to our Guam-based story. 7 Chinese nationals arrested on Guam for illegal entry during key missile. I'm sure this was just a coincidence, right, guys? I mean, it's a mistake. I mean, these are just some fun-loving tourists who took a wrong turn, on their way to Albuquerque.
Now.
Just like the Amazon drivers in a steak truck with ties to ISIS who attempted to enter Quantico. Purely an accident.
It says here, seven Chinese nationals were arrested recently for illegal entering Guam around the time of a recent U.S. missile intercept test. And this is on December 10th. It says the Customs and Quarantine Agency said at least 4 of the 7 were found in vicinity of a military installation. The Chinese nationals had arrived on boat from Saipan. Oh, that's not ironic at all. Northern Mariana Islands, according to authorities. The Guam is home of several U.S., of course, Anderson Air Force bases there. As you can see, they've got B-52s lined up here on the air. I don't think B-52s are permanently stationed there. But I know that they've landed U-2s there. B-2s, probably U-2s as well. Military aircraft dropped its, military aircraft dropped a ballistic missile 930 miles from Guam, and the interceptor tracked and destroyed it. So this is the missile test that they were talking about, and it was destroyed mid-flight. The first ever missile test on Guam occurred as part of efforts to strengthen defenses and engage threats aimed at the island. They recently said that they would not be putting in an Aegis Ashore battery there, which I found interesting, but I think they do have a THAAD battery located at Guam. Collectively, we will use this to build upon and validate joint tracking architecture, integrated air and missile defense capabilities for Guam. I wonder why they need all that, Joe. I mean, just at Guam. I mean, I thought it was just a tropical paradise. Nothing to see here.
Well, they need it to help keep the island from tipping over. It's too heavy on the one side.
That's right. We only have all the military stuff on one side. So, I mean, ultimately, the reason why Guam is being targeted here is because Guam, as part of Micronesia, is strategically important. The Chinese communists have absolutely focused on this area. We saw them gaining ground in numerous areas. Was it the Samoan Islands? The Solomon Islands recently. And I guess when you show up with suitcases of money and no strings attached, it's hard for some of these poorer countries to say no. But we haven't been doing things to really kind of sell
I'm going to
ourselves.
disagree with you. There are a lot of strings attached to Chinese money.
Oh, well, but that's the deal, that they say there's no strings attached, but they're communists, so there's always strings attached.
Yeah.
Well, it's Joe, it's kind of like the Belt and Road stuff, right? Oh, we're just we just want to show up and we want to build a road, we want to extract some minerals, and we're going to pay you for it. And hey, Bob's your uncle.
I'll say this again: of all of the areas where China has made inroads, as a United States Marine, the Solomons gives me the most personal pain. So
yeah, I hear you there, brother. Let's see. U.S. officials and lawmakers have also raised concern about Chinese espionage on U.S. military bases. So it's not just military bases in the States, in CONUS. It's literally every military base in the Pacific is being looked at. I'm sure we're seeing the same efforts on Japan and probably in South Korea as well.
Well, what's interesting is you have to wonder what the strategic objective is, because recently 5 students at the University of Michigan were arrested for peeking around at Camp Grayling. And a lot of people might think, well, Camp Grayling, it's a National Guard base. Well, it's the largest National Guard base in the United States. And who do we train there? Well, we train Lithuanians, Latvians, Estonians, and yes, Ukrainians. So I guess that was probably done in partnership with another third-party nation who wanted some info on what was going on inside Camp Grayling.
Yeah. And you're right, Hunch. Strings are always attached. Ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Stan, what's your kind of take on the developments here in the Pacific region? I mean, it's been.
I think everything is going to be solved because Elbridge Colby is going to join the Pentagon staff. So we're good. He's got that all figured out. I know Patrick Fox is probably really mad about that, but other than that, it's all good. No, I mean, we can't take an aircraft carrier battle group and send it to the Red Sea and suppress the Houthis. So just figure that out. I mean, extrapolate that to the South China Sea, okay, with a much more capable adversary that's fighting off its home shores,
home turf, right?
Yeah. So and yet we're going to send $251 million worth of stuff to the Taiwanese, and we're going to sell them some stuff, and we're going to keep poking the dragon, and you have to ask yourself, what's the point of all this?
Yeah, if we can't handle a bunch of guys running around in bass boats, what are we going to do against an actual professional Navy? So,
yeah. When you look at how we handled this entire Yemen operation, it's been going on essentially since the end of last year. I think isn't that when we started really kind of. So it's been going. Yeah, it's been going on a year. Actually a little more than a year, but yeah, Prosperity Garden. We have not. The initial assumption is, well, maybe we've got restrictive ROE on the Navy so that they can't really do anything other than just defend themselves. But the more we see, Stan, of the deterioration of our Navy, the more it looks like that's not the case. The case is that there is like legitimate incompetence going on here.
It's a combination. It's a combination of both.
Well, sure. I mean, the problems start in Washington, but they trickle all the way down the chain, and those leadership problems permeate the entire organizational structure after a while. This is the reason why the rusty boats is tolerated now. You would never have seen that on a Navy vessel back in the Cold War. It's not even possible to comprehend that. Yet now they look like garbage scows sometimes when they come off of a long tour.
Well, I think here's one way to think about this. Okay, and I feel badly for the Taiwanese if that's the case. But the reason why we care about Taiwan is TSMC. Period. End of story. Right. And for what we have spent and what we will spend in blood and treasure to defend Taiwan, we could replace TSMC here in the United States multiple times over. I don't care that much about Taiwan. Taiwan's bed was made back in the 1920s. Okay. This has been on an arc to a resolution one way or the other, and they have not shown any real commitment to defending themselves. 46% of the island is not opposed to reconciliation with the mainland. How do you solve that if you're us? The country that we need to care about in Southeast Asia is Indonesia. Period. End of story. Indonesia will be the next force that rises in that area. And if Indonesia is not on our side, then Japan's in trouble, then Australia's in trouble. Taiwan is around in there.
Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world.
Yeah, and is slated by 2070 to be the 6th largest economy on the planet. So go figure. That's what we should be spending time on. And you have in Indonesia a new president who's very, very amenable to the United States. But we're gonna talk about what his supposed war crimes were in Aceh back in the day. In the meantime, we're propping up ISIS in Syria.
Yeah. We just removed the bounty on the guy who was basically Al Qaeda's man in Syria, and yet it's like as soon as you do that, you have no ability to not work with anybody else in the world. If you'll work with him, you should be able to work with anybody, to include Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, I would challenge that Jelani is a heck of a lot worse of a human being than Vladimir Putin.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
right. If you'll work with Jelani, you should be able to work with anybody.
Scott's point is that the Venn diagrams overlap. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's not the exact same kind of bad, just equally bad for sure. Maybe Jelani's worse, but
Jelani is worse.
I don't know. I still think the worst human in the world is Kim Jong-un. But
yeah, see, Ron's got it right. He's exactly right. So 46% of the island is Kuomintang, and they're so invested in the mainland that's exactly where their allegiances are going to be.
It's shocking. The only if the commies only knew that all they needed to do was let the KMT invest in the mainland, they would have been able to take over Taiwan years ago. They should have just done that. But and then at some point in the future,
Daberdan, from your mouth to God's ears, bud. I'm just saying that there may be something working in that direction, but watch this space. And KUSA was not that great to begin with.
Yeah, they weren't getting the straight dope. They were doing is taking those. What was the Vesper? What was that? The Vepper, and they were just converting those.
Yeah. We have a new pistol coming out at SHOT Show. That's all I'll say. You watch this space, you're going to see it.
We're at that point. That's awesome.
Yeah. Modular system. Going to be great.
I hear you have some lowers and uppers available for sale at the building, so I may have to swing through. So,
no, that's fine. That's fine. By the way, I bought my wife the she doesn't know she's downstairs, so that's okay. I bought her the 9mm machine pistol for Christmas. It's like when I was a kid. I bought my mom a catcher's mitt for her birthday. I thought, that's a good thing too. Told her it was an oven mitt; she could take stuff out of the oven with it and stuff like that. But in the meantime, I needed it to play baseball. So anyhow, always practical.
I actually need to pick one of those nines up, by the way. So,
this is a natural segue into our shameless promotional segment where we can talk about things like Shield Arms and tactical-wisdom.com. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about what you got going on this week?
What I've got going on this week is that it is Mongol Moon Day tomorrow.
Oh, that's
so make
right.
sure you have a flashlight in every room. If you don't know, read Mongol Moon. Watch the skies for Iranian commandos. I have not yet finished the article that I was writing, so watch for a new article this week. We'll get there. But the big things I want to push this week for sure are classes. We have a class coming up next month, stick and knife combatives, a one-day thing. 4 hours of stick training in the morning and 4 hours of knife training in the afternoon, followed by Kay teaching digital tradecraft for the next 2 days, ground rod level 2. So there are things happening at Camp Ponderosa. The full schedule for the first half of the year is there. We really can't get much going here at Ponderosa until March because of the weather. But I will be down in North Carolina in February with Brush Beater. We'll be doing our usual.
Snowbird. God damn. Come on.
I'll tell you the worst 2 weeks of weather and going down there. But hey, it's our big class. We do it every year. But we'd be happy to have folks join us over there in North Carolina for that class. And then all summer long, we have a whole bunch of classes planned here at Camp Ponderosa, along with Shield Field Days. We should have, by New Year's, the date hammered down. Our partners at Shield assure me that he just has to ask one question of one person, and we should have a date. So keep paying attention. We're going to have a lot of good stuff there. By the way, the movie Homestead, if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's okay. It's not great, but it does raise a lot of good issues. The Baofeng AR-152 is featured in it. But that raises a great point because in it, the guys who actually did the best had their radios all programmed. So when the power went out one morning, they were all able to talk to each other.
They just picked up their radio. Yeah.
They just picked up their radio and went to work. So if you need radios programmed, I do that. Just drop me a message and we'll set it up and get your radios all ready to go. So.
All right.
By the way, I have a societal comment to make. I saw this the other day, and I didn't get a chance to put it on X. If you wonder about the morals of Hollywood, and you wonder whether or not the Diddy stuff is real and the Epstein stuff is real and all the rest of this, all I have to do is point you to the fact that on Christmas Day, that is the debut for the movie Nosferatu, Embrace the Darkness. What in the hell are those people thinking? That's my question, right? I mean,
they're rubbing it in your face. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're rubbing it in our face. That's all I can say. I mean, that's just.
I just want to say thank you to Hunch the Dirty Roofer, gifted 10 Future Conflict memberships. If you don't have that feature turned on your YouTube, then you missed out on his Christmas present. So thank you, brother, for that. Appreciate your support. The other ways you can support the channel are through super chats and through buying your own membership if you didn't get one from Hunch. So appreciate anybody who does that. Anybody willing to throw any money into the pot for this is just very appreciated. So thank you. Real quick, if you could pull that link up there, I wanted to share this. Blaine's book is coming January 7th. Tenure. This is the new one. Basically, it's a professor gets mad as hell and he's not going to take anymore. Punisher against the woke mob.
So it's falling down.
Well, there's a lot of kind of
it is a lot like falling down.
If Brett Weinstein had basically, instead of going on the internet and complaining about what happened to him at Evergreen University and grabbed an AR-15, that would be a little more analogous to. But
So it's a day that ends in Y, right? So that's Blaine's got a new book coming out. I mean, gee whiz, there must be like a whole room full of like illegal immigrants, right? They're just sort of typing stuff out for him all day long. I don't know. Either that,
Well, I'm looking
or he's
over here at this
embracing AI.
wall of books, and there's only a couple by that one guy whose name shall not be mentioned, and there's a whole bunch by Blaine over here. So
exactly right. Yeah. Well,
And I'm a little concerned about Mike Bennett. This is my Mike Bennett rant for the morning. I think Mike is dipping into the ayahuasca up there at Whistler a little bit too much.
Did you see the scene he wrote between me and Anti-Pattern? And I was like, "This
I
is why
have
your last
not seen
book was
that.
called Rose Hips in June."
Oh no, I don't really need to see that. But
Yeah,
okay,
it is
all right.
tactical cuddling in the woods. It's
I may have to go up to Whistler on one of these trips to Canada just to wellness check on Mike. I'm afraid we're going to find an airstream full of pizza boxes and
well, he may still be chasing snow bunnies. They're just not the same ones he was chasing.
Not only to do more of his own books than Mark Sibley can do of his series, but he even goes so far as to rub his face in it as well by writing a story in Mark Sibley's own anthology. So I mean, it's like not only can I write more books in my world, but I can write more in your world too.
Yeah, the only thing I'm concerned about is that apparently he's going to reissue all the original books in the Rose Hips in June modality. I'm a little worried about this. I'm a little worried.
Well, speaking of Mike, he is,
and I'm going to get a really nasty note from him, I'm sure, as a result.
I'm sure. Oh, is the Colonel's new book called "The Tulip Thighs in December"? Well done, Hunch. Well done.
So a lot of great guys that are going to be Steve Stratton. He's been on the channel. We've got Brett Allen. He wrote that book with what was the name of that book that he released?
But it was here.
Yeah, a lot of good folks in there. So anyway, definitely two books to check out: A Box of Pieces and Blaine's new one. So definitely check those out.
But wait for volume 2 to come out, where you'll see a story by me. So,
I'm told that I've been written into whatever this next one is, the Drews for Mike. I have a character there, but we'll see. I think he's going to kill me off in the first chapter. That's my only.
Well,
I heard a rumor that Sibley's going to bring back a character based upon public outcry about the death of that character in Dance of Devils. So we shall see.
Yeah, I haven't read the sequel yet, to be brutally honest. I just I have not kept up, so I need to catch up.
Well, skip the part where I die because it's apparently not relevant anymore. Nobody was ever found, so therefore.
All right.
And Watcher, I've stepped over it, but you want to share the last link, and we'll let the last promotional link. You just had it up, Watcher.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna. All right, we're good.
Yeah. And of course, there is Shield Arms. Always a good place to. Why am I talking about it, Stan?
There's what you're going to see in the first quarter is the launch of a new modular pistol line that builds around the S15 magazine. It's pretty darn interesting. You can customize everything down to caliber and everything else. So it's we think it's going to be a pretty big deal. So SHOT Show, it'll be sort of the unofficial launch. And we'll make a lot of noise about it at that point. In the meantime, a lot of other things that are cooking there in other places, and we'll probably have some things to say about that a little bit later. One of these days,
cool that I know the people in those photos. That's actually cool.
What's that?
Anyway,
those are not actors. Those are real employees. So
call me crazy,
not a lot of
there.
Not a lot of beta males at Shield. But yeah, some great things are going on. So watch this space.
I don't know if you want to comment on that. That's
What's that? Oh, well, there's going to be a range. I bought the 9mm because it's good for home defense, and it's got a folding stock and fits in a backpack. It's a great bug out bag inclusion too. So, and it's not very heavy, so the wife can handle it. Of course, she can field strip an AK-47 blindfolded, so she can do just about anything you want with a weapon. Sergeant in the Soviet Army.
Ah, nice.
All right. Let me move us on to our main topic here. Just 1 second here.
Field medic, sergeant. So, just to be clear.
Field medic. Our next topic is titled Auslander Raus. So this, if you're not aware, this is a very popular song. Like just random Germans are singing the song or playing the song. It's not like just a protest song that's been going around. But after what we saw with this Christmas attack by the atheist Saudi individual who was absolutely not an atheist because atheists don't do what he did. I don't blame him. Germans took to the street on Saturday night in Magdeburg to protest a deadly Christmas market attack carried out by a 50-year-old immigrant from Saudi Arabia. And the Germans are the ones who are insisting that he was an atheist now. If you look at all of the atheists in atheist Saudis because evidently that's a thing, like Saudis who are atheists.
That's not a thing at all, literally.
Well, no. There are people who are saying like that guy is not one of us, right? He is right. He is. Mostly they're college professors and academics types. That are non-religious Muslims, ultimately, is what they are. They just don't want to. They just don't want to be Saudi, and they want to get out of there. And so, the car rammed into a crowd at this Christmas market, claimed 5 lives and left 200 people injured. I mean, and I don't know if you guys saw the video, but he was literally plowing through there at speed, and he wasn't slowing down either. I mean, it was like several hundred meters. It looked like. Of crowd that he was going
let me comment on that. Only one thing makes you do that, and it's fanatic faith, right?
Right.
People don't do this because they're mad. They don't do this because they're drunk. They do this because they think God told them to. So when the first story came out about that, I knew that it was BS about him not being Muslim and it not being a faith thing and all that. The reason why the Germans want to believe that he was an atheist and not Muslim so much is that they would then have to look inward at what they have done to themselves, and they do not want to do that.
If you
they're
could,
willing to grasp onto that possibility.
If you could go up and play the video watcher, the first one, yep, that one with audio. Oh, and he takes himself. I love how he accidentally hits the wrong button and it basically pulls him out of the. There he is. Did you kick yourself, watcher?
I did while I was trying to add sound.
Yeah, that's all right.
Here you go.
Hello world, what's going on in Germany by now is unbelievable. We finally came to the point where the German media says killing Germans is a far-right thing by now. But let's go one step back. A guy from Saudi Arabia who came to Germany in 2006 was very well integrated since he worked as a psychiatrist. But then he decided to go on a rampage, drove a car into a Christmas market, he injured 200 people and killed 5. The interesting fact about that is he actually said it on X before. He said he is going to kill Germans. Even Saudi Arabia warned the German intelligence community that he was going to do that. They didn't warn him once, they didn't warn him twice, they warned him 3 times. But how could that even happen, you might ask? Well, German authorities might be a little too busy hunting Germans for so-called hate crimes and going after real crimes. And what the German media is doing by now is very interesting as well. They're building up a frame. They're claiming that this guy was somehow connected to the AfD, which is considered to be a far-right party in Germany. This was not a far-right terrorism act. It was an anti-German terrorism act. The guy said he wanted to punish the Germans, and he said he wanted to kill Germans. But thankfully, not all of the Germans lost their mind. What we need by now is a good remigration program, not the bullshit the legacy media is telling us. So please help me share this video.
Well, they have demonstrated the capacity to move at least 6 million people 80 years ago. So just think about that.
Yes, they had. Merry Christmas.
You don't have to take a shower, but you do have to get on the train.
You have to get on the train.
Yeah.
That's correct.
That's right. I mean, but basically, this
And
guy's got it right.
the trains will run on time. Yeah, so
Yeah.
You get on the trains. But essentially, this was an anti-German attack, and a lot of Germans have had enough. But the problem is that I don't know what's allowing the people in Germany to continue to believe these far left narratives. But the fact that there's no way in hell you could connect this to the AfD.
The candidate for Chancellor of Germany is a lesbian.
Right. They are left wing by almost all American standards, not far left, but they are not maybe the center. But I would say even not center, because they're not like pro-gun or anti-abortion or anything like that. I mean, they are fairly socially liberal when you
they are German nationalists, and that's the rub,
right?
Because that works against everything that is embedded in the EU and the WEF.
Yeah,
this whole cabal of goofs.
Well, it's this national populist. This just happens to be not a conservative national populist, or at least not a right-wing national populist. But it's all, when it comes to right and left wing, it's always relative, right? What's right in Germany is not right in America. Joe did the Christmas sweater correctly. This is not Joe's Christmas sweater. This is Rhodesian.
No, this is Rhodesian brushstroke. I wore a Christmas sweater last Friday at the Northwest Montana Veterans Food Pantry Christmas party, and it rocked, by the way.
So the Germans are angry about this. Watcher, can you reshare the third video, because it's short. It's only 12 seconds long. I play the sound with it this time, because these people are not happy. So this is absolutely focused. This AfD has got a lot of kind of arrows in its quiver as far as the things that it's runs on, but reimmigration is now the leading. Deporting all these Syrian refugees is going to be at the top of the list. And this is not the first time that we've seen a Christmas market be disrupted. This is happening not just in Germany, but in other countries. Let's see. And it's just, we're seeing pro-Palestinian people come in and disrupt both the Christmas markets, but also, and not just from the standpoint of like, oh, we like Palestine and you should listen to us, but no, your Christmas market offends us as Muslims, right? We shouldn't have to be subjected to this. This is not a religious society, so we shouldn't have to be subjected to your religious displays. So, and I don't know how many of you guys in the chat have been in Europe for these Christmas markets, but this is literally baked into the bedrock of European culture. These Christmas markets are everywhere, and not just Germany, but all over Europe.
It's the European version of the souk, right? I mean, It's just kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah, it is that. Yeah, it kind of is that. Yeah.
And
Look,
let me address something in the chat. Saran, he was Black Hebrew Israelites are a sovereign citizen religious fanatic group who believe that they are the original Jews. So the point was that when I said that religious fanaticism is the only one that does this, somebody said, no, that's not what this guy was, just a crazy criminal in Wisconsin. He was absolutely a religious fanatic. He was. You have to be absolutely crazy to be a Black Hebrew Israelite first, and second of
Facts.
all, he was indeed a religious fanatic.
Yeah.
well, these guys are constructed, right? I mean, they're groomed and constructed, and they're on a shelf, and when they push the button, they do stuff like this. And so it's meant to be difficult to discern. It's meant to be able to generate angst on multiple sides of the spectrum of social interaction. So I mean, it's all
Wow.
confusion.
I'll point out too that Black Hebrew Israelites kill people in America every single month. You just don't hear about it because they don't tell you about it.
They just assume it's another black guy killing somebody. So,
And by the way, what all this proves is that Ramstein was way ahead of its time. That's all.
well,
Yes.
Watcher, can you share the link that I just
Mind
put
Lab.
in?
Comes to mind. So in your Ramstein catalog, you can pull out Mindland and listen to that, and it's pretty much right on time. And it was recorded years ago. So
Yeah, that one right there. I mean, so this is what we're getting, and there's tons of videos from last year where they were doing the same thing. You know, it was the Palestinian protest had just kind of got kicked off last year. So it was one of those kind of things. People were even saying, you go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. I'm just clearing my throat.
No, I was going to say
they're even going to be lit.
They're even saying in Poland you can visit Christmas markets without being hit by a car. So I mean, you know, so it's literally
it is a pretty good tourism ad.
I know, right? Christmas without the terror. Yeah, and this is absolutely terror. It's not. It's anybody who tries to say this is just a what was it? Car kills people, right, Joe? That's what all the headlines that there were. Yeah. It says, German truck kills, or a German car or whatever it was, kills people in Christmas market or in street fair or something like that. Like they didn't even want to admit that it was a Christmas market. They didn't want to admit that it was a Saudi man driving the car. It was almost like, oh, well, this car got loose. I mean, it was just ridiculous how they bend over backwards to do this. So
this case makes a fine case for the 48-hour rule, because if you talked about it at the first 24 hours, you'd have heard that he was an atheist and not a Muslim, and oh my gosh, he was a German man, a psychiatrist. Then 48 hours goes by, and you learn the real truth about the guy. So
yeah, it takes about 48 hours to get a lot of the noise and look for the signal. Watch, I put two more links just for further examples of this, just to kind of, I don't know, infuriate people more, just to show more examples of what they're dealing with in Germany. And this is literally a problem that they created for themselves. It's not like they can blame anybody else for it. You know, they literally have no one to blame but themselves. So just completely, marching through the middle, just disrupting the whole thing. This argues for the return of like German hooliganism or something like that. And then the next one is this was actually the one that I saw that compared Germany and Poland. Jeez.
Well, when you talk about Poland, you've got two other countries you need to drop into the mix there. One is Hungary and the other is Slovenia. They've all got the same sort of anti-migration policy. The EU treats them differently, but yeah.
So just occupying this area, and you and your family can't have a nice day. You have to listen to our lament. And this is all Syria right here. This is not even Palestine. This is Syria protesters. And then, of course, here's Poland. Who knew that the Warsaw Pact countries were going to be so idyllic compared to Germany and
Well, they've seen it all. Before.
Yeah, go ahead.
They've seen it all before, right? They've had versions of this in the construct of the Soviet Union. So,
all right,
Garth, Poland's not there yet. They're working on it, but they're not there yet.
The thing I like about Elon the most nowadays is not his rockets, and it's not any of his it's how he is able to absolutely, with a single tweet, get under basically to just dislodge entire political movements, and to get in there. Real quick, Juan Cholo, 1977 for $10. White Christians gathering in so-called Christmas festival rams vehicle carrying an unspecified POC. Now that's not nice of those white Christians.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, those Christians.
And then we've got Lance Corporal Veteran for $2 said translation, please. I'm not sure what we were talking about there that requires translation. Just tell me in the chat, and we'll address that. Unless you're just making a funny in that case. Well,
I think he might have been asking about the German videos we were watching.
Oh, well, there really
that's all right
wasn't
though. It's been a while.
Yeah. All right. So Elon, in latest threat to German democracy, dangerous fascist Elon Musk tweets 6 words about AfD. So yes, this is absolutely existential threat to German democracy, Elon Musk. German democracy, which has existed undeterred since 1949, but is somehow always shaken to its foundation whenever anybody sings the wrong song or holds a televised debate with the wrong person, is once again on life support. Christian Linder, head of the market liberal Free Democrats, did much to trigger the present catastrophe on the 1st of December when he said that the Free Republic should dare more Milley and more Musk, because there is little distinction between praising Milley and Musk and demanding the return of National Socialism, because, of course, Musk is clearly he's a National Socialist. If national you mean by American and a socialist by meaning the opposite of socialist, then I guess there ensued a brief period of establishment hyperventilation. So neither the Argentinian president nor, how should I put it, the American entrepreneur Elon Musk, let's put it plainly, are role models for German politics, in my view. I don't see where we can find similarities in German politics, is what Christian Linder means. The irony is that liberalism, I think, actual real liberalism, classical liberalism, which is what Elon Musk is pushing here. And he recognizes the fact that the people have the right to choose the party that they want to solve the problems of their country. And he said that AfD, if you just go down to below her video, you can see what he posted. Basically, she posted this video, and this is what he basically retweeted that video and said, only the AfD can save Germany. I agree with this. I don't even know that the AfD can save Germany, but of all the political parties currently in the field in Germany, they're the only one that seem like they have the wherewithal to be able to do something about it. Gentlemen, comments?
I think this whole thing about Elon, there was just the entire weekend was anti-Elon all the time.
Oh,
But
all the time.
it shows the power of narrative control. For example, another debate that happened over the weekend was that Nelson Mandela was imprisoned as a political prisoner only, and that he ended apartheid. Neither of those are true. Nelson Mandela was
F.W. de
imprisoned
Klerk
because
did.
he was a terrorist, and F.W. de Klerk ended
Right.
apartheid. In order for me to believe that Nelson Mandela ended apartheid, I'd have to believe that under apartheid, a black man in prison was elected president, and that's just not true. But it's a matter of who controls the narrative, and that's where this whole thing of President Elon Musk is a risk to American democracy and a risk to German democracy and EU democracy. I'd like to point out that the EU is the least democratic institution that exists on the planet. You don't get to choose your MEPs. Your government does, and the whole thing is really weird.
Yeah. I mean, Stan, what's your kind of take on how essentially they had a narrative? Essentially narrative capture is what you saw with the mainstream media, and it's even worse in Europe. Because you could say at least MSNBC was getting some pushback from Fox, but essentially once Rupert Murdoch was out of there, it was. Or no, once Roger Ailes was out of there, it was the Murdochs, and it's not even Rupert Murdoch anymore. It's his very liberal children who are running the show now. So that's not even a voice of reason anymore. But
Neil Cavuto left.
Well, good. I mean,
yeah, he just resigned. So.
Joe, did you see this?
Actually, to be fair, it was his wife.
Yeah, his wife was the one who was doing the
necklacing. Yeah,
the tires. Yeah.
Oh man, if you wanted to see the left come unglued, I made that comment that he was indeed a terrorist and his wife was 10 times worse. Man, you thought I'd have said get the showers ready, but I did not.
All right, Joe. None of that. All right, but anyway, so just the idea that the narrative collapse on the left has been so complete, and I think honestly, guys, I mean, I kind of live in the information environment when I think of especially like this generational kind of conflict and whatnot, and just information warfare. Elon Musk's control of X is literally the turning point of the information war within the Western civilization. I mean, there are a lot of little outlets of that are not directly connected, but I see his control of X being the kind of the center of the hub that supports this entire alternate media space that allows truthful narratives and counter narratives to go out to the people. We saw a lot of this in action during COVID. The internet was it's kind of tough to kind of work through because you heard so many contradictory and different and evolving positions throughout COVID, but you could stay pretty aware. And basically what Elon's doing is upsetting the entire left-wing media apple cart in Europe. And the way this is true is just the venom, the outright venom that is coming, not just from like one party. It's not like the Greens or whatever, but like the CDU is coming out against him. So let me there's some quotes here. Let's see. Elon Musk is openly promoting AfD and concludes that Putin is not the only one who loves the party. This is another green faction in the European Parliament says that the EU commissioner and the EU member states should no longer stand by and watch as billionaires misuse media and algorithms to influence elections and strengthen and normalize right-wing extremists. Another said this is an attack on democracy. This has nothing to do with freedom of expression. Dennis Radke, the CDU representative to the European Parliament, said Elon Musk is declaring war on democracy and the man is a menace. So, I mean, just the kind of the widespread vitriol that Musk is getting, this makes me, I already kind of liked Musk. Now I like him even more, especially when I see who he's upsetting. I know we shouldn't say too much about one man because anybody could get run over by a bus tomorrow. But when you've got the loudest microphone on X, it's nice to see somebody using it in a way that I agree with.
I like some of the words he's saying, but he still wants to put a chip in your brain. So,
yeah. You kind of go along with the good stuff, but then you got to know where to draw the line, because if you just start buying everything that Elon says because Elon says it, well, he said all these things I like. Well, he said this too, but I don't like this. Well, then you should fucking disagree with it. You shouldn't just go along with it, which is what people
ironically
do.
it's the same with Trump. Whenever on Twitter I disagree with something Trump says politically, I get castigated by the masses. So,
well, then this kind of goes to the idea of, cult of personality and Joe, me, you, and pretty much everybody who we've engaged with here on this channel have always done a good job of kind of coming to an issue with their own kind of process and thought patterns and things like this. I mean, sure, from time to time, we don't really know much about an issue, but we could establish some kind of guiding principles to it that kind of leads us to a pretty good first take. Sometimes it's not perfect, but whatever. But so many people just go with the kind of the tastemakers, oh, well, Tucker said this, or Elon said this, or Trump said this, or Joe Rogan said this, or any number of this is the reason why it's really important to get a lot of different information sources. This is one of the reasons why I engage with left-wing sources, just to kind of test my ideas and to understand what their counter narratives are. Sometimes, they may have a good one, but most of the times they don't. It was interesting, Joe, before we kind of move off of this. I don't know if you were paying attention at all to AmFest over the weekend. This is, the big convocation of all the conservative media influencers that get together for Turning Point. Anyway, Donald Trump spoke there. It was his first his big rally kind of event since he was elected. And they had on a guy that I absolutely can't stand. They had Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks on there. And basically they want to hear from the other side of the populist movement, the left wing, side of the populist movement, to see how they are having their own kind of internal thing. And I found it a little easy when they were talking about the kind of the inside baseball politics. It was interesting, but as soon as Cenk had the opportunity to talk about any real issue in the real world, it's like I don't like or believe anything he says. I mean, he's a leftist.
Cenk is simply trying to rebrand himself because all of a sudden his income go down. So I was very uninterested in the entire Cenk Uygur appearance. And I'm always less interested when our side is talking to our side, saying the things our side likes in a public forum, because that's to be expected, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather hear when they're changing someone else's mind or talking about a new idea rather than just barking and clapping over the same points that we all agree with already.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, that's one of the reasons why I like it when conservative personalities go to colleges and places where they're going to be challenged and they have to really, fight for their opinions and things like that. So I appreciate it. I cut them a little slack because, this is really a celebration of all their efforts to get Trump reelected. And so this is them taking a little bit of a victory lap. So, it's okay.
Just not a victory lap until January 21st.
I know. I mean, that's a separate victory, right? If you get Trump in office, then that's a completely separate victory, right? Like, oh my God, we made it from election day to here without anything happening. But we're not there yet, so we'll see. anyway, it goes on to kind of talk about how, basically Trump is Hitler, and well, they just need to kind of, he needs to be moved out of the political discourse within Germany. I love the final word here on this one quote. Anyone who is considering buying a Tesla must accept the accusation of supporting the destroyer of democracy. I mean, bellicose much. All right. And then, so, Joe, we've been talking about AfD and their efforts to kind of work against the mainstream of German politics. And what did the mainstream of German politics do? They immediately began to try to ban AfD. But interestingly enough, that effort has basically died a stillborn death. A German deep state effort to ban AfD faces major setback. A motion to ban the AfD, or the Alternative for Germany, is unlikely to move forward, as there is less than a week left to vote on such a ban in this legislative period. And sources involved say there's no majority in place for such a move. I always kind of was a little, I felt like this was more rhetoric than actual, but when it comes to European politics, who knows what the fuck is going to happen.
I think that anytime anyone talks about wanting to ban an entire political party, they're the threat to democracy. For example, take the Communist Party of the United States. They round up a total of about 6,000 votes every time around. It's important for people to know exactly how unpopular those ideas are, right? So you let the political parties stay. What other champion of democracy has banned political parties? Well, Volodymyr Zelensky. Oh, whoops. Maybe that's not the right way.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not the guy we want to take lessons from. So I wanted to play this. This is the AfD co-leader. This is in the German parliament. So she speaks in German, but there is there's translation here. So let's see what she has to say. It's a little long, but let's play like maybe the first minute and a half.
To be clear, were you wanting the German language speech or just the?
Well, I don't want to read it, so I mean, we can just kind of let it play while we can talk over it. But essentially, their party is the only one that's actually acknowledging what's happening in their country as far as the knife attacks, this Christmas attack. There have been a massive number of rapes and things like this and they won't even acknowledge the origin of the rapists, because they know that if they did, it would look like 80%, something like 80% of rapes in Germany in the last couple of years are from immigrants from the Middle East. This is a real problem in German society, and AfD is the only one that has any real chance of fixing this problem. And Stan, I mean, let me ask you this question: do you think that right-wing populism has the ability to make a comeback in Germany?
I think you're watching it. I think you're watching. I think it's been slow to get to catch and slow to gain traction. It's had to fight through an awful lot of misinformation that's been directed at it. But I think the combination of energy suicide and economic suicide and migration stupidity in Germany have finally woken people up, pun intended, that the pathway that they're on with both the SDU and the CDU is unsustainable. Volkswagen, she's just citing that. The Mittelstand, the vaunted Mittelstand in the German economy, is being crushed by energy prices. Yeah. Look, this is the country that went through Weimar. Yeah, they can come back, from a sort of more right wing nationalistic society. So.
Well, and the other interesting thing is that they're not a one-trick pony. It's not like an anti-immigrant party. This is a legitimate kind of party, national party that focuses on a broad range of issues. Like, for instance, right now she's talking about the damage to the manufacturing culture and the deindustrialization that the left's doing in the name of climate change. When we've done the calculus on climate change at the end of the day, I think we're going to find that literally trillions and trillions of dollars were lost of development because of this, this false notion that we can buy our way out of some sort of climate change thing. That's, let's be honest, if it's happening, it has nothing to do with what kind of cars we're driving, or Stan, have you seen Landman? That Billy Bob Thornton? Have you seen that? Okay, yeah. So I started watching that today, and I finished the third episode a couple hours before the show. And in the third episode is the one where he does that monologue about the windmills, and basically talks about how the carbon footprint of the windmill will not be paid for in the entire lifetime of the energy that it produces. And that, it's supposed to be there for 24 years, but it only lasts about 10 to 15. And it takes so much petroleum to actually keep it going that it's basically a net negative when it comes to clean energy. It's just alternative energy. I thought that was a pretty good.
It's mass pollution. So
yeah. Well, and then never mind the fact that it's an eyesore and the bird, what it does to the bird life. It's just, there is no clean energy. It's just different energy, and it's not even as good. All right, let's move on, shall we? AFD is not going anywhere, I'm sure. And I think you're right. I think that they're doing it one thing at a time. They are. I think in the next election they will probably come out as the most popular single party, but everybody has said that they will.
Well, yeah. So Alice Veld, who was speaking there, is now the leading candidate to be the Chancellor of Germany. She's up over the CDU candidate by, I think, 3 points.
But the CDU and I can't remember the other party. SDU. Yeah, SDU, right. They have both said that they will not coalition with them, so they'll basically be the main party in opposition. And the chancellor automatically comes from the lead party, right?
Yeah,
I can't remember how German politics work.
The president of Germany will ask the leader of the party with the most votes to form a government. And then they go through a process of seeking coalition. And right. I don't think nobody wants to be outside in the cold. So you're watching this in France, right? That's what's led to the election in France. When you had a minority government, it was unsustainable. And so maybe Germany's going to go through a minority government in the first iteration with respect to its election. God, I mean, look at Canada. It's got a minority government with the Liberals in coalition with NDP. And look at the shit that's produced. And look at what Canadians are going to be doing. If you look at the polling in Canada, and there's likely to be an election in Canada well before the mandated October timeframe.
I think the Conservatives might get a plurality.
No. The Conservatives are going to end up with a majority of about 100 seats over the next closest party. I mean, it's stunning.
I thought I heard somewhere that they actually may get in the mid 40s to low 50s.
Well, so what it means is, I mean, if you look at this, the polls are saying the Conservatives will end up with about 150 seats, and the next closest party will be NDP with about 35 seats, and the Liberals will be at about 30 seats, and the Greens and the Québécois, Bloc Québécois will be the second party with about 40 seats. I mean, there is a wave coming in Canada, and the same thing will play out in these other countries as well.
And
It's
by
not a
the
bad
way,
thing.
yeah, well, I heard somebody else. I can't. I wish I remember who it was, but somebody said Alberta should be its own. It should become its own state and join the U.S. I thought that was a rather hot take because that's actually
I'm
more realistic.
I'm not going to comment on this. I'm way too close to that discussion to be able to comment on it publicly.
All right. And on that note, let's move on, shall we? So that's Auslander, Raus. That's what's going on in Europe right now, specifically Germany. Let's be honest. If it's not Germany, Italy, or I guess Poland, now we can throw into that too. Poland, Germany, Italy, and France. Who cares, right? Well, UK maybe, but that's not really continental Europe. So segment 2 is on the Monroe Doctrine, guys. From the beginning of the show, one of the kind of things that we talked about is the importance of, it's not that America should never get involved anywhere. It's where we should be very selective in how we get involved, and our involvement should kind of go to some very specific things, right? Ideally, if there is an existential threat against the U.S. somewhere in the world, then we should tackle it, right? But there aren't a lot of existential threats to the U.S. So then you just have to look at national interests, right? And so I kind of always articulated these as the main threat, which is China. That's a national interest. We've got the Western Hemisphere. That's our backyard. So, it goes hand in foot with the Monroe Doctrine. And we've kind of kicked the Monroe Doctrine from the curb, basically all throughout the Cold War. And then finally is securing energy, right? And so it's not that we get oil from the Middle East, but we are interested in the price of oil staying at a manageable level. In order to do that, you have to maintain some kind of connections to the Middle East. Now, that being said, right now we have way too many connections to the Middle East, and we should absolutely cut most of those back to bare bones. I don't know of any country in the Middle East where we should actually be boots on the ground right now, because I don't see any real, but I think there's an argument to support our allies such as Israel, Saudi Arabia, and other countries that, and you could argue that even a Saudi Arabia doesn't really even need to be an ally, but it is. So
By the way, I just want to shout out to Joe for correcting the chat. I was going to do that, but I didn't have a chance
on
to
it.
do it. There is no fucking thing. There is no such fucking thing as the Idaho Empire. Give me a break.
Well, that's what is that supposed to be? That Greater Idaho or whatever is it?
They are welcome to be protectorates of the Grand Duchy of Montana and Alberta, but we will not be joining them.
That's correct.
You're right.
What about Northern Utah? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, you guys just elected you guys just elected Romney Light to the Senate, so I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, they've got problems. So let's look at this. Kind of out of nowhere, guys. I won't say out of nowhere, but this is the kind of thing that we've been looking at for a long time, Joe. We've talked about Chinese infiltration throughout Latin America. Specifically, we've talked about the Panama Canal in the past, through some of these port management contracts that China has just gobbled up, long-term leases and facilities contracts that they've acquired. This is one of the things they've done in Africa as well. So the Belt and Road basically is what you've seen China get involved. And this is what has allowed them to basically bring in the precursors for the fentanyl trade and all kinds of other just disruptive behaviors in Latin America. The fact that President Trump
that map is inaccurate. It needs to be almost all red, because Colombia and Brazil are on the Chinese side,
and Mexico.
Well, that's true.
I mean, he's got Mexico up there, but he didn't paint it red, so I don't know. Anyway, Brazil for sure. And didn't Lula just have some brain surgery or something like that?
Yeah. It didn't work.
It didn't. Yeah, he's still a retard.
He does not have a brain.
All right. So, but it was interesting that Donald Trump, before he takes office, actually came out and did this blast on Panama. And I think it's worth. Do we have the tweet here? We don't. But anyway, and basically what he said was, they've given too much access to China, and that the United States must be given its basically primacy in the, as we have 70% of the traffic that goes through there, we can't be allow China to get a foothold there. If they don't allow us to, basically put America first when it comes to the access to the Panama Canal, then America should seize the Panama Canal back. And he also criticized Jimmy Carter's disastrous decision to sell the Panama Canal Zone. Basically, what is it? When did it get transferred, Joe? It was
99.
99, right? It's same year as Hong Kong. For $1, right? It was like a $1 sale price or something like this. So it was interesting that Donald Trump brought this up, and everybody's kind of picked up on this because you guys know that I've always talked about the Monroe Doctrine, so I liked hearing that. It says here that President-elect Donald Trump seems to poised to revive the Monroe Doctrine, signaling a renewed focus that the U.S. will continue Western Hemisphere domination for decades and will no longer tolerate any other competition in controlling strategic maritime choke points or natural resources in the region. On Saturday evening, Trump vented on Truth Social about how Jimmy Carter foolishly gave away the Panama Canal. So exactly what I said. And it was solely for Panama to manage, not for China or anyone else. I thought that was interesting, right? It's like, listen, we gave it to you so that you could manage it, not to then outsource it to our greatest existential enemy in the world, China. The core issue is that China controls 2 of the 5 ports adjacent to the canal, Balboa on the Pacific and Cristobal on the Caribbean. While the U.S. spent 3 decades engaged in nation-building activities across the Middle East, China transformed Panama into a geographic and commercial hub, strategically positioning itself for political, economic, and military advancement. Imagine if we took all that money that we poured into the Middle East and to Ukraine and poured it into this area. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we should do that. I'm just saying that,
I am.
Imagine the difference.
I'm pounding the table. We should do
you
that.
think we should,
let the Europeans we should get out of NATO. We should let the Europeans fund their own defense, and we should focus on the Western Hemisphere.
Well, no, what I'm saying is most of that money should have gone actually into the U.S., not necessarily into Panama.
And I disagree with Caravaggio's comment in the chat, and that is we should not put some PMC into this. Okay, we should take our goddamn military that we spend $900 billion a year on and go down to Panama and split this shit out. Right? This is straightforward.
Well, and we've talked about the fact here on this channel that we should also have a buffer zone in northern Mexico. If Mexico can't solve its own problems, we just need to have enough safety space in order to
you know what? A lot of the immigration actually comes from South America, and if you held the Panama Canal Zone, you could virtually put an end to it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, they would
root causes, man. Root causes, right? We were gonna solve the root causes, right? Let's do that, guys. I'm gonna have to step away here. I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And I hope the best for everybody for 2025.
Well, we appreciate you, Stan, showing up. We're not doing a show on Christmas, but if you're around on Friday, absolutely, we'd love to have you for our domestic. Yep. So, see what you're doing. All right, brother. Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Nice to have Stan on. It's been a while. All right. So Trump also talked about the fees are too high. Basically that it's a ripoff. He says the fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, especially knowing the extraordinary generosity it's been bestowed on Panama by the U.S. This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop. The big picture is that the Monroe Doctrine may have been revived during Trump's second term to counter China's efforts to dominate the Western Hemisphere. I mean, this, you got to remember, guys, if you're going to adventure into countries, you should adventure into countries that actually have some sort of bearing on your country. This is what's known as like a regional hegemony, right? If we're going to set up regional hegemony, we should do it in the Western Hemisphere. We should cultivate the people. We should boost our allies. We should do everything we can to knock down our enemies. Let's see. So I want to get down here. One of my favorite guys on the Monroe Doctrine specifically is Mersheimer, and so we've got some clips of him down here.
And I want to tell you a story about the United States of America that most of you don't know. Certainly most Americans don't know this story because we have this idealistic story about noble America that bears little resemblance to reality. The United States, and what I'm going to do here is try and convince you that the United States since 1783 in terms of foreign policy has acted according to my theory. That's what I'm going to try and do. 1783, the United States started out as 13 measly colonies strung out along the Atlantic seaboard. What did we do? We marched across the continent to the Pacific Ocean. We murdered huge numbers of Native Americans. We stole their land. We went to war with Mexico in the middle of the 19th century, and we stole from Mexico what is now the southwest of the United States. We invaded Canada in 1812 for the express purpose of making Canada part of the United States. For those of you who don't know, the reason Toronto is not the capital of Canada and Ottawa is the capital of Canada is they expected us to pay a return visit. Furthermore, with regard to the Caribbean, we'd own all of the Caribbean now. Places like Cuba and Puerto Rico would be American states if it weren't for the fact that it was inextricably tied up with the issue of slavery. And the northern states said, we're not going into the Caribbean because there are too many slaves down there. Those are slave-holding states, and we don't want any more slave-holding states. We had a voracious appetite for conquest. Adolf Hitler, when he went into the Soviet Union in the summer of 1941, sometimes talked about imitating the Americans and their ability to conquer and gain territory. He admired us greatly. He was trying to emulate us. He referred to the Volga River as my Mississippi. That's how the United States was created. It's an expansionist country like we've never seen on the planet before.
So this kind of this is the, there we go. This is the kind of the laydown for where, you know, how you establish a country, right? It's that growing hegemony, right? Now he used.
It sounds like liberal gobbledygook to me, but what do you do you, boo?
Well, I mean, I don't. He is a liberal, right? I mean, he's going to use the language, but he's not wrong. I mean, the United States was voracious. You know, when
we bought that land, we bought most of that land.
I know, but like for instance, we did have to fight, you know, the Mexicans for some of that land, and you know, we actually invaded, you know, Mexico, but they invaded Texas, and you know,
I was going to say, who invaded what?
Right. Well, Texas was part of Mexico, right? And then they basically became independent, and Mexico invaded them, and then we invaded Mexico.
Okay. I don't hate America. Sorry.
I don't hate America either. I'm not. That's ancient history, but this establishes the groundwork for what essentially became a hemispherical hegemony. I'll be honest with you. It's the second one was the one that I really wanted you to play.
Yeah, okay. I bet.
That's the first part.
All professors are. Come on.
Still want me to play it?
Yeah. Play the second part because this is the part that's about the Monroe Doctrine
of our attempt to create regional hegemony. Second thing we did was the Monroe Doctrine. In 1823, old President James Monroe, he told the Europeans, "We're not powerful enough to throw you out now. But there's going to come a day where we're going to run you out of the Western Hemisphere, and once we run you out, you're not welcome back. This is our hemisphere, we run it. No distant great powers are allowed in our hemisphere." It's the Monroe Doctrine. First part of the story I told you is called Manifest Destiny. Marching across the continent from the Atlantic to the Pacific, creating this huge state, importing huge numbers of people, industrializing the country. And then the second part of the story is the Monroe Doctrine, getting the European great powers, the British, the French, the Spanish, all out of the Western Hemisphere. And of course, by 1898, we had done that. We had created regional hegemony. What was our second goal? Our second goal, as I told you, was make sure we didn't have a peer competitor. We did not want any other country on the planet to dominate its region the way we dominate the Western Hemisphere. We had 4 potential peer competitors in the 20th century: Imperial Germany, Imperial Japan, Nazi Germany, and the Soviet Union. We helped contain and defeat all 4 of them. We helped put all 4 of them on the scrap heap of history. We entered World War I when it looked like the Germans were going to win in April of 1917 and helped finish them off. With regard to the Japanese, we beat them single-handedly in World War II, and we helped the Soviet Union, which played the key role in defeating Nazi Germany in World War II. And then, of course, the United States played the principal role in containing the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and then we gladly ushered them down the toilet bowl when they fell apart. The United States does not tolerate peer competitors. That's my basic story.
So that I totally agree with this analysis. I mean, you know, there are probably details that you could argue, but ultimately his view of manifest destiny is a little more negative than mine is. But I still agree that win, lose, or draw, buy, conquer, or steal, you know, however you get there, you know, doing what we did, manifest destiny, was the correct thing to do. And then the Monroe Doctrine is the correct thing to do. And it's nice to see a return to the Monroe Doctrine. I don't want any great powers, i.e. China, involved in the Western Hemisphere, and we should do everything we can to take them out. I know, but you know, that's where you can always push back, right? And if you're successful, then great. If not, then you continue to push. You just make life as difficult as possible for the other great powers.
The reason for our ascension to the top of the world order was geography. We are the
100%.
only country who came out of World War II with a functioning industrial base and a functioning economy, because we were not bombed into oblivion like literally everyone else, China included, Russia included. So us spending all of the post-war years all the way up through today fighting issues in the other half of the world was misplaced. We should have been devoting that energy to continuing to maintain our geographic advantage. We have squandered that, and we no longer have it. What has protected us from invasion for so long was strong borders and 2 oceans. We have now air travel has rendered the 2 oceans irrelevant, and our open southern border has rendered border security irrelevant. So we have already been invaded and pretty much taken over. It's that simple.
Yeah, Napoleon gave us the greatest real estate deal in history. Absolutely right. He had to pay off debt.
Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah. And so you know,
followed by the Russians with the second one, because what was regarded as Seward's folly turned out to be a big boon for us. Because imagine Russia being right next to Canada.
Yeah. Anyway, just on Mersheimer, you know, when you accept the fact that all these professors are liberals, you know, then you just have to find the ones that have good ideas and sort the wheat from
Mersheimer
the
says
chaff.
that we're killing everyone in Gaza, and he's not right.
Oh yeah, he's vehemently anti-Israel. I mean, he's been that way for a long time.
Sounds like he's vehemently anti-USA. So
I don't know that that's the case. He has his theory, and he ruthlessly applies it to everybody. And so, like, for instance, the first one, it's like, oh, we did something really bad, but then he says the Monroe Doctrine, we basically is something good. So
no, he didn't. He just said that we won't tolerate other powers. That's not a good thing. He meant that in a bad way.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's the way to be effective, right? You have to be tough. You know, you can't be, you know, but
you're ascribing your mindset to him. I just heard him talk, and he doesn't think it's a good thing.
I don't know where it is. Anyway, he's got a book called what is it called? Anyway, basically his idea is called offensive realism, and he uses history to kind of go through it. And America is probably the smallest part of his explanations, and he applies it ruthlessly to everybody. And that's just the way a lot of these academics are. They see it as being, fair and equal, but I think when it comes to his current policies, and the best example is Israel, he absolutely hates everything that Israel's doing, and I think he's totally biased against Israel. All right, let's move on, shall we? So this is where we kind of get into some of Donald Trump's posts here. I thought this was really funny. It's trolling, and I don't know how useful it is when it comes to actual. Anyway, and so he says the president of Panama responds to Trump's tweet. So I read some of what Trump tweeted about. It says the president of Panama responds. He says every square meter of the Panama Canal belongs to Panama and will continue belonging to Panama. And Donald Trump says, "We'll see about that."
So this is another own error, right? It's an unforced error by Donald Trump. This is commentary he should be making post January 20th.
Right.
If he
He's
says
kind of
this
showing
now,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If he says this now, he's giving the left ammunition they can use against him to say, maybe we shouldn't allow him into office on January 20th.
Yeah, it plays into that
kind of talk until after he is in the seat.
Yeah, it plays into that imperialist kind of like, oh, he's an imperialist, he's a fascist, he's a warmonger, he just wants, this, that, and the third, which, let's be honest, I mean, Trump has always talked big, right? But 9 times out of 10, it never comes to anything because he uses it as a negotiating start point, right? It's like he comes out talking tough and then makes a deal. And then the deal is very palatable, to everybody involved, shockingly. That's how deal making works. His last tweet in response to that was welcome to the United States Canal, which, I'll be honest with you. I think the Panama Canal should be U.S. territory. That's just my opinion.
And that is some blood there. So yes,
and that's not imperialism, Joe. I mean, people are saying, oh, well, this is an imperialist impulse of the United States. No, this is reclaiming U.S. territory.
This never said it was.
No. I'm not saying you. I'm saying there's been a lot of criticisms online about this, and
you said that's not imperialism, Joe. I'm like, okay,
no. I was saying that it's not that you said that.
Yeah.
It says here, Panama Canal is considered vital national asset for the United States due to its critical role in the U.S. economy and national security. Trump wrote, adding that if the principles, both moral and legal, of this magnanimous gesture of giving are not followed, then we will demand Panama Canal be returned to us in full. So he gives the off-ramp right there, right? So this is clearly kind of muckraking in order to get people excited. And then, what are we going to have to do here? And he says basically here, if the principles, both moral and legal, of this gesture is not followed, okay, so follow the rules, right? If Panama, you do what you said you were going to do in the beginning when you said you would take over, then we will allow you to continue to run the Panama Canal. It will stay the Panama Canal. And then he said, officials of Panama, please be guided accordingly. So that's, is that a warning? Yeah, and then, of course, there's a lot of Spanish speaking from this guy, so I'm not going to look at that video. The president-elect's comment came during the first major rally. This is his talk during the Turning Point rally. Let's just listen to maybe the first minute or two of this. See what he says.
Another example of the things we're doing and looking at It's such a terrible thing is happening. The Panama Canal is considered a vital national asset for the United States of America due to its critical role of American economy, the whole world economy, and also national security. The Panama Canal. Has anyone ever heard of the Panama Canal? Because we're being ripped off at the Panama Canal like we're being ripped off everywhere else. A secure, he just said take it back. That's a good idea. Where do you come from, sir? He doesn't come from Panama. Oh, yeah, good.
So
A secure Panama Canal is crucial for U.S. commerce.
So that just proves to you that all the headlines the left has run about Trump suggests taking back the Panama Canal are false. Trump didn't suggest it. Someone in the crowd did, and he just agreed with it. That's not Trump suggesting it. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, you know, anybody who makes a breathless headline off of something Trump says in a speech, it's just not credible. I mean, Trump doesn't mean it. You know. Anyway,
it's like they've never been on Twitter before.
Right. So anyway, I think we've heard enough. That was probably the main piece right there. So ultimately, I think what we're going to see is Trump engaging much heavier in the Western Hemisphere. I think the Panama Canal is just one of many areas where he'll do this. And I think he's focused like a laser beam on looking at Chinese influence. He's talked about Chinese fentanyl coming into Mexico. I think that'll be another area like that. And I think he's going to start dealing with these Western Hemisphere leaders directly and just and not playing the soft hand that the Biden administration's had with
First
all
thing
these.
he needs to do is replace the commanding general of Southcom. Let's start there.
Let's start with replacing all the 4 stars.
Well, yeah,
and probably all the 3 stars too. If I didn't say anything. All right, moving on. So this is a view of Jimmy Carter as he listens to Donald Trump talk about God love Anthony Cumia for playing this. This is Jimmy Carter as he listens to Donald Trump's speech about taking back the Panama Canal. He's like, oh no. Anthony Cumia says, I just hope Jimmy Carter stays alive long enough to see Trump take back the Panama Canal. Oh boy. That ain't right.
It's terrible.
Joe, we talked about this kind of other shoe dropping. Let me ask you this. What's the chance of it being not like somebody else doing it to us, but, doing it to ourselves?
Well, let's not forget the Christmas terror attack that they want you to forget. That was obviously a false flag and completely planted, and that's the Nashville bombing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that there will be something. We've already seen at least 3 attacks. There were 2 different bombings in Sweden, plus the attack in Germany. I think we'll see something. I don't know what we'll see, but something will happen. Pro-Palestinian protests, probably.
So this author here, he's talking about like things are just kind of not making sense to him. And so he sets that up in the first half of the article. And then he says, so I'm going to tell you what's happening. Call it intuitive spitballing, but you heard it here first. So this is his thoughts on where it's going to happen. And where this future conflict is going to originate. Sightings in New Jersey and elsewhere. So he's kind of back to the drones. Sightings in New Jersey and elsewhere are just the latest steps in efforts begun years ago out in Nevada and the Western test ranges. The effort has been spun up by the CIA or some other arm of the hegemon and when he's talking about that kind of liberal hegemon that linked in with the WEF and all that kind of stuff, to exert complete technical and information dominance on Americans first and then the rest of the world. No surprise there. As usual, skunkworks style R&D combined with limitless funding produced breakthrough technology, parts, material science, but mostly advanced computing algorithms to govern swarm behaviors. Drone swarms in previous years over sensitive targets where the test flights that the same that way a lot of UAP, UFO sightings are test flights. The fact is, most of the military was not in the loop, suggests the classified nature of what is being developed. High-end applications of this software are powering NGAD, the Loyal Wingman. So that's the next generation. I can't remember what AD stands for, but that's a drone. Advanced. I can't remember. Anyway, wingman drones and future weapon systems, but we can assume that some technology has been leaked and to be developed and along parallel paths. The purpose to simplify commercialized drone tech to be pushed out to terrorist organizations linked to the hegemon. How? By letting China do what it does best, the same way Elon Musk developed space tech instead of NASA. Drone tech has therefore come down to the masses. But more importantly, has been battle tested in Ukraine, in Yemen, Syria, etc. What emerged is one of the greatest asymmetrical warfare weapons of all times. $5,000 drones killing tanks is a game changer. The profit model cannot be sustained if hegemon only has $470,000 sidewinders to counter with. But most of all, hegemon cannot have Joe Sixpack building potentially lethal drone tech in his garage, much less ordering it from Amazon. Congress is already hard at work to ban Chinese drones from import, to allow law enforcement to operate drone radar, and to push all kinds of regulation, restrictions onto drones and drone operators. Watcher, this is what you were talking about last week. All this is needed as public support, and at the first opportunity, law enforcement will be signing up to purchase their own lethal drones with autonomous targeting. The technology is already here. Joe, did you see that I guess some sort of Christmas drone program? Watcher, you might have seen it as well, where they had the synchronized drone swarm, but all of a sudden the drones started falling out of the swarm, and one of them hit a little kid,
7-year-old little boy. He's in critical condition.
I didn't see that.
I get the feeling that somebody went to one of these public drone things with their anti-drone gun and decided to test it out and see how it worked.
Yeah, or something, right? Something that took over the control.
Right. Watcher, I mean, you're our kind of drone expert. What was your take on that video?
It could be that, or it could literally just be any kind of interference, or it could just be improperly maintained drone batteries. Again, it was a drone display out in the cold, and you can see that it's not just one drone that's falling out of the formation; it's a bunch of them. I think it's pretty new technology, and I don't know. You wouldn't set up right underneath where they're launching the fireworks. It's probably also not a great idea to set up right underneath where 15-pound drones are going to be flying overhead at enough height to gain terminal velocity on the way down. Just kind of a little bit of common sense goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's see. Let me go down here. But basically, so back to Jersey, they're trying to engineer a public scare. So something similar, standard procedure, their favorite trick. If you don't get enough response, then a 9/11 style false flag could be cooked up. Radiation scare, fentanyl poisoning in the water, large scale power blackout, etc. Real people may die in order to achieve the public demand required, but the ultimate result will be enable severe drone restrictions and control over Joe Sixpack. Why? Can you handle the truth? You are simply not allowed to possess asymmetrical technology against a tyrannical state. I don't even care about drones personally, but if the state wins the upper hand, Skynet becomes almost guaranteed. What's your guys' think? I mean, this guy's whole idea is that this drone thing was orchestrated from within the USG in order to kind of build up support for anti-drone legislation that'll basically pull the drone capabilities out of the hands of Joe Sixpack.
The drone, the drone camel is already under the tent. There's in the tent.
Yeah.
you're never going to eliminate drones in America. Drones are now readily available. You can make drones from standard model airplane parts. That you're never going to control drones anymore. It's already out.
Yeah, I mean, Watcher, the specialized parts are one thing, but it's pretty easy to actually put together stuff from more generic types of parts, right?
I've been for years watching guys build like drones out of old Dremels and stuff. Yeah, like legitimately, it's a lightweight electric motor and a battery ultimately.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I'm not saying that this whole thing is not some sort of a false flag. I just don't think this is it.
Yeah, I don't. There's been no damage, no danger. It's just drones flying around. If those drones actually struck something, then I would believe it more as a false flag.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that the other shoe that's likely to drop is not some sort of internal political kind of inside baseball. I think it's something that will actually damage U.S. confidence in security and potentially will allow for a martial law to be declared that would then keep Donald Trump from taking the oath of office.
let's hope it's not a long-term run-up for a drone attack on January 20th.
Yeah, Joe, you mentioned that the inauguration, I think it was you that mentioned this, the inauguration is purely ceremonial. He can take the oath of office, in private or something like that. But ultimately, if you can prevent the oath of office from being taken, that's the kind of the key point there. That would allow power to transfer.
John Cook down in the chat who's been doing it, but here's the thing: it's unconstitutional for them to keep him from that. Yeah, because everything they've been doing so far has been 100% constitutional.
Constitution, right? Yeah, that hasn't stopped them at any other point in the past.
It's a sheet of paper until someone holds them to it. So,
yeah, Joe, you're absolutely right there, brother. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. We're at the 2-hour, 12-minute mark, so thank you for hanging with us here. Joe, final thoughts going into the week, going into Christmas. We won't have a Wednesday show, but we'll be back on Friday at the U.S. time. Watcher, what was the final time that we decided? Was it 8 p.m. Eastern? Was that right?
That sounds right to me. 8 to 10.
So Friday, 8 p.m. Okay.
All right. So
that's 6 p.m. my time.
Yeah, 7 Central and 6 p.m. Okay. All right.
So while I want you all to keep your head on a swivel and pay attention to your surroundings the next couple of days, do not forget to just kind of unplug, put down the phone, enjoy your family, enjoy the time. Remember what we're celebrating. Not a big commercial holiday where we get all kinds of cool stuff. We're celebrating the presentation of gifts to the birth of Jesus. So remember that and enjoy the time with your family. Have a very Merry Christmas and stay safe, as Scott would say.
That's right. Watcher?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Be good to each other. And we'll see you again on Friday.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Joe said. There's for me, there's 3 parts of Christmas, right? The first is what Joe said, the actual real reason behind Christmas, right? And it is a Christian holiday, and you should not you should fight against anybody who tries to kind of divorce that piece. So none of this happy holidays kind of stuff, unless you know somebody's Jewish. You want to say happy holidays to them or something like that to be kind to them. But it's Merry Christmas. You shouldn't be afraid of that. Also, it's a time to get around family. So make sure you're doing that. I know a lot of times, we can be isolated and depressed at Christmas. And I understand that. I don't experience it per se, but I understand it. I have a lot of friends, especially vet friends who saw a lot of things Christmas is a hard time of the year for them. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with family. And then let's be honest, a lot of getting around family is around getting around kids. And I hate to say it, while we need to let the kids know that it's because of the birth of Jesus, it's also fun to get presents. The classic Christmas culture of America. Do everything you can to take your favorite kind of things from when you were a kid at Christmas and give it to the new generation. My daughters both indulged me watching the 1968 Dean Martin Christmas special with them. So 67, I think, is the one with Frank Sinatra, though. But anyway, so I would just say go into a lot of those classic Christmas culture. Not as Christian really as a lot of things, but ultimately we're Americans and we should embrace our culture, and all those kind of classic Christmas things are American culture. So don't be afraid of them. All right, guys, that's all I got. Stay head on a swivel, stay mindful, and stay safe. Thank you.